Welcome back to the Crypto Crush Show, everybody. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things Bitcoin, altcoins, and also a little bit of gold with our special guest, Conor Kenny. He is a top influencer and KOL in the cryptocurrency space with over 500,000 followers across his platform. Conor, welcome to the show.
Damn, I didn't realize it was 500,000. Did you make that? Did you make it up? Or is it real?
I'm pretty sure I added it all up.
Yeah? Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah,
I'm
happy to be here.
Amazing. Well, for those that don't know who you are, do you want to give a little bit of background on yourself and how you got into crypto and where you are today?
I'll do the short story first, but I talk about cryptocurrency every single day on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. I started buying in 2017. Pure right place at the right time sort of moment. I think a lot of people did the same thing in 2017. I then thought I was an absolute genius, and I made what I considered at the time a massive amount of money, which was $3,000 into $75,000. And obviously I thought I was a G and, partying and doing all of that stuff. I don't need to work anymore. I'm genius. And then I lost all of that in 2018. And then I was sad for a year and a half or so. And then as we went into the 2021 bull market, I noticed something very interesting on YouTube, which was there are a lot of people in my position that were either in the market and just like consuming content or creating the content. So they were kind of me from 2017, but they didn't know that there was this looming meteorite that hits, your bank account or whatever, your portfolio, right? So I thought I'll start talking about crypto from the lens of someone who's been through at least one cycle, right? Because I want to make sure that yes, there's an opportunity here to make a ton of money, but also we must take profits. Because I didn't take profits and I got annihilated. And that's sort of where the idea of the channel came from, or that specific type of content on the channel came from. And then I just rolled with that, and I kind of took the audience on the journey that I went through. And that was, taking profits for the first time properly, the different things I was looking at, learning, getting more into trading, investing, building my own strategies. And then of course the next bear market came and taking them through that again. And then now we're here again in another bull market. Or some might argue we're not in a bull market, but I would argue that we are. Yeah,
on that actually, that comes to my first question. And it's important the way that you're saying about taking profits. At the current stage that we're at with Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market, do you think the bull market's over, or do you think the 4-year cycle has changed? Are we moving into more of a Q1, Q2 end of the bull? Let us know your thoughts on, the current situation of the market.
So I kind of build my philosophy and my trading style over being a contrarian. And that includes genuinely believing that no one has a clue what's actually going to happen, right? Obviously, in my strategy, I believe there are people who manipulate the market, right? And we'll get into that. But essentially, apart from those guys in the short term, nobody actually knows, right? So anyone who says this will happen on this date because of the 4-year cycle, XYZ will happen, we're 1 year from the halving, so we deserve this. No, it's all nonsense, right? All I do is I decide, okay, what's happened in history, and then I base it on what's happening now. So according to history, yes, there's going to be another leg to the bull run, right? But maybe I'm wrong, and I have to hedge my bets with that, right? And we'll get into how I do that. But yes, I think there's going to be another leg. I think there will be an alt season, but I think that anyone who thinks they'll be able to time it perfectly or figure out exactly when it will happen or get in now and get out, all of that's nonsense. We have to figure out a way to get around this market. And the best way that I've figured it out is, okay, I'm a moron, right? I'm an idiot. Everyone's an idiot. We don't give ourselves too much credit. But what we do is we base our strategy off what we've seen. And then we give ourselves probability if we go up or down, and then that's how we navigate it.
Do you think the market's changed specifically this cycle because of the amount of like institutional money and like smart money that's come in that, 2-3 cycles ago just didn't exist, because these types of people were saying, Bitcoin's a scam, it's not going to go anywhere. But now they've started to heavily adopt it. Like BlackRock owns, a good chunk, a good percentage of Bitcoin and Ethereum now. And then you've got ETF products from altcoins that are now going to, come to fruition in the next 12 months. So do you think the cycle has changed because of that primarily, or is there other things that you look at that might differ your opinion on when we may top out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that this time is different as well as being exactly the same. So the reason behind certain things going, bull mode is a different reason this time round. However, what we've seen is more or less the same thing, right? Different times, peak in 2024 for meme coins. No one expected that. But was that an alt season? I would argue yes.
Yeah.
It was an alt season, right? Because we had a load of alts go crazy. Meme coins are altcoins. They're not Bitcoin, right? So it's an alt season. And then my theory on this run is very much institutional based. So very much I'm taking the bet with my money, I'm putting my chips on the casino table that the best coins this time round will be the ones that have ETFs, will be the ones that have interest, will be the ones that the whales are moving into and holding, and the timeline, that mainstream media are talking about. So it's very different to the last bull run. In fact, it's completely different, right? And the problem is people are behaving in this bull run the same as they did in last bull run. So they're expecting the same sort of gains, right? And I think a lot of the people that are in the market right now are, I don't know if jaded is the right term, but they're fed up with how the cycle moves, right? So they're either getting in and getting out really quickly, which creates this crazy volatility. And then they're kind of battling with the newer guys, and high leverage is also a newer thing for retail. It's bigger this time round than it was last time anyway. So it's like this all creates this insane volatility in an otherwise very similar trajectory we've had last time, right?
Yeah.
Because the total market cap for altcoins right now is actually quite comparable to where it was in the bull market last time.
Yeah, it's broken a new high.
Yeah, exactly.
Recently. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could argue that we are very much in an alt season. It's just been powered by the likes of Solana, Cardano, XRP, Sui, and those lot, right? Instead of being this, you could just have shooting fish in a barrel or whatever the term is, right? It's not been like that, right? It's not been easy to find the small caps. Although, if you were positioned in the large caps throughout the bear market and into now, you would have done really well. Yeah. And so I find it, it's always a tough position, because on the channel, I'm trying to help as many people as possible. So that includes someone who's in my position in 2017, who, let's call it luck, got in at the right time and they managed to ride that wave. But it also includes the people that would be buying at the top here. So trying to manage the expectations of what could be happening, as well as giving people the best opportunity they can to make the best of this run, right? Yeah,
no, I kind of agree. I think your theory is very similar to, the way that I teach as well. Is I do think low cap, mid caps have suffered considerably on a utility side. Low cap meme coins, different story. It's culture, it's memeable, it's easy as well. Because I think onboarding to the Solana blockchain has been really easy. It's not as difficult as it was 5 years ago. I wasn't even using the Solana blockchain 5 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So it's different. And I think you're right with the perspective of focusing on ETF-based utility projects. That's why I'm big on Solana, because I do think that the Solana ETF is probably going to do quite well underneath how well the Ethereum ETF has started to perform in the last 6 to 8 months. So I think focusing on those utility type projects is really good. And like you said, if you would have got in to Sui 2 years ago when it launched and it bottomed at a $200 million market cap, you would have made a lot of money and had some form of an altcoin season. But I think people, went down the last cycle route of trying to get into these mid and low caps that just haven't had any volume whatsoever, because you had that liquidity black hole of the meme coins last year. Yeah. Which is massive. And then interestingly, what you're saying about leverage trading, and that wasn't really a thing last time. How do you think that that's affected the market and the frame of mind of retail? Because obviously we've just had that $19 billion of liquidations. You've got, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have been leverage trading, even on a 1 to 2x leverage, that have been liquidated. So how do you think that that's now change the landscape? And also, what are your thoughts behind the whole kind of situation that's just happened?
I mean, the $19 billion liquidation was an insane event, right? I mean, I'm so jaded. I'm so used to the pain of this crypto world that in fact, that day was it was almost like a new chapter for me, where I've been preaching the like removing your emotion, and I have, from what I believe, removed my emotion from my portfolio. But that really was like, that was the test for me personally, to be like, do I care? And I was like, I don't care. Like, I had a normal day, right? Whereas anything like, the FTX crash was the comparable one, or May 2021, the 30% wick on Bitcoin, comparable times. And I did care, right? And the thing is the clarity that not being emotional gives you is like absolutely insane. Because now I have entries from 4 days ago that I'm already making money on, because I just had the clarity of following the strategy in the moment.
Yeah.
So to answer the question about what leverage has done, it's created loads more volatility. So you can look at everything that happens kind of in life as good and bad, right? I see a lot of people who are like, well, leverage is destroying the crypto market. And again, if you just zoom out to a monthly chart, you tell me that the crypto market's destroyed. The total cap for altcoins plus Bitcoin, it doesn't look destroyed to me. In fact, it looks like it's very healthy, right? But if you zoom in, you see the volatility. But in the volatility, you have opportunity. So if you're a shorter term trader, you have opportunity. If you're a longer term trader, you have opportunity, right? You just sit and relax and you put the money in the market and you let it do what it does. Or you zoom in and you're a short term trader and you have the volatility. So for me, I've tried to encompass all of those things in my strategy. So I have like a 3-layered approach to the way I handle the market. And because of the way leverage moves the market, we have new things that we can look at, like the on-chain or the centralized data, not on-chain data, but the centralized data of where the shorts are sitting, right? So what I can do is I can look every single day on basically a zoomed in way or a zoomed out way, and I can see what's the majority of the market doing. And then you can literally ask ChatGPT, what percentage of people win trading in general, right? 99% of day traders lose money.
Yeah.
Something between 80 and 95% of crypto traders lose money. No one who just buys Bitcoin and holds it, up until the last 2 weeks has lost any money ever, right? Because when we're at all-time highs, that's my favorite stat when we break all-time highs, is that no one in the history of ever investing into Bitcoin has lost money at that point, right? So now people will be like, he's yapping again, but only 2 weeks of time has anyone lost any money, right? Or however long it was since the last high. But I can now see, using the data and using my knowledge that most people who trade inherently do the wrong thing. So I can say, okay, is the majority of the market going long, or is the majority of the market going short? So on a day like we have the massive liquidations, what's everyone doing? The day before, everyone was long, right? There was almost no, and it's kind of insane. It's like almost no shorts, all-time high. Everyone who's trading leverage, apart from the big guys or the low leverage traders or whatever, or the people who are thinking the way I am, they're all short. Everyone's short. So it says to me, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a crash. No. But this is not the moment in which I'm buying anything or I'm trading, as in, because I have a thing, I only go long when I consider us being in a bull market. Yeah. So I never short, because my way of trading is swing trading. So if I need to hold a trade open for months, I'll hold the trade open for months. Whereas that idea doesn't work with shorting, because basically it can just go up and destroy me. Whereas I can be wrong for a long time if we're in a bull market. And according to history, say I'm long Bitcoin, right? And I hold it for 6 months. According to history, if we are in a bull market and we have a down period, it will eventually come back. So that's the idea. But yeah, so I can look at the market and I can see, okay, the majority of the market right now is short. So we had everyone's long, $19 billion correction, or $19 billion liquidation. The market's down. Everyone's panicked. Everyone's going, Trump's tariffs destroyed the market again, which they didn't do last time. No. So why would it happen again? We've gone down to the 200 MA. We're slightly below it, which for the first time since the initial Trump tariffs, I bought Bitcoin spot at 105, because it's just like, I try and simplify everything, right? So the three strategies, spot, low leverage, high leverage, right? And I use what the majority is doing, and I do the exact opposite to them. So then you get the contrarian trading style, right? So in a bear market, everyone is going short or they're not paying attention. So because of the time frame, I'm just buying spot. So I'm buying predominantly Bitcoin, but then also some altcoins, and we get into that, which ones later. And then once we start to move into a bull market, for example, we're above the 200 MA, but there's so many other ways to figure out in your opinion, if we're in a bull market, right? But once it's starting, so we're not really in that parabolic phase. We're not really in the crazy move phase.
Yeah.
I do the same thing, but I dollar cost average using 3x leverage. And this will be on a large account, so I can sustain volatility, right? So if we go down 25%, I'm just adding to it. If we go up, I'm taking a little bit of profit. And I DCA in, DCA out, but it's on like probably the trades that I have open between 2 and 6 months they've been open.
Right.
And then we have the high leverage strategy, which I'm trying to get in and out of in days or maybe weeks at a push, but normally days. So using the data, we have basically mainstream media in a bear market. Bitcoin's a scam, crypto's a scam, everything's a scam, everything's going to zero, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I'm buying. Spot, the real asset, the underlying asset, and I'll hold that for years. And then the leverage ones, low leverage and high leverage, I'm using the charts, the leverage shorts and longs. And when everyone is predominantly short, I open a position. And it's like relatively that simple, but it's controlling the emotion when it moves.
Yeah.
So, for example, after the $19 billion short, everyone else is like, okay, well, this is the end of the market. It's done. It's dead. Yeah. They've all been annihilated. I'm like, okay, well, this is the opportunity, right? Because most likely we're going to bounce, and we nearly always bounce. Actually, we always bounce, right? If we crash like that in a bull market, we always bounce. So then I'm going long, adding slightly to the 3x, and then I'm also going long on the higher leverage, which is 10x.
Yeah.
And then the second we bounce, I take profit out, I move the stop loss to break even, and then I just wait. And I wait for the move to the upside. So to answer your question, leverage creates volatility. And then using that volatility, there's opportunity for traders. And if you don't want to be a trader, ignore the volatility because it doesn't matter. Zoom out and you'll see up and to the right.
Yeah. It's actually quite similar to what we do. I look at the 200-day. That's like my main indicator of whether we're in a bull market or a bear market. Simple, so right? I look at that on the weekly as well because the weekly 200-day, weekly 50-day EMA is literally my indicator of whether we're in a bull market or a bear market. So as long as we don't go below that, which we haven't yet, then in my eyes, we're still in a bull market. And, if we even get close to that, then that's like where my buy accumulations is because every single time we've come back down to that area has been literally like a local bottom for Bitcoin. And typically as well, if you look at the history of the Bitcoin chart, every time we break a new high, we have a retracement. Every single time this cycle that we have broken a new high, we've had some form of a retracement, whether that's 15%, 20%, sometimes even 30%. The one last summer was around 30% retracement, retraced all the way down to the 50-week EMA. You bought there, you're laughing. So in my eyes, I agree. I don't think that we're in a bear market. I don't think it's over at all. The indicators that I look at to determine whether we're in a bull market or a bear market is still indicating that we're in a bull market. If anything, the 106, 107K Bitcoin has been like a really good buy zone for us. And that's kind of where we've been accumulating. And as well as understanding that, yes, there's a percentage of people that would have got liquidated. There's a percentage of people that, have definitely lost money, but it's to be able to go back in again and make those losses back. That's what makes you like a really, really good trader. So you say that you take the emotions out of things. Like, how have you managed to psychologically do that? Because it's really difficult, especially when the fear and greed index is at complete fear mode right now. I think it's at 27, something like that. Yeah. And everyone else is saying it's over. Everyone else is panicked. Crypto Twitter's completely split. How do you deal with all of that noise? And how do you psychologically go, no, we're good. Like, this is what the data's saying. I'm going to go back in. No emotions. Start again. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I assume MMA fighters or boxers feel the same in the sense of if you get smashed in the face enough times, you're not going to get scared of getting punched in the face again, right?
True.
So
True.
I've just been smashed so much that I'm like, whatever, I just don't actually care. Like I said at the start, 2017, whole portfolio destruction. 2021, I got out 50 to 60% of my portfolio, 40% gone, zero, right? It was loads of money and then actually zero again, but I got some out. And then with the trading, it's every time me and my friends, we have jokes about it, but it's oh, you lost that amount of money. Well, that means you can make that amount of money, right? So again, I'm very firm on strategy. And I guess that's somewhat of a belief system. And my belief system consists of, well, if everyone is normally wrong, and when I say everyone, I mean 80 to 95%, right? So if technically everyone, let's call it, is wrong, then of course, when I'm on Twitter, when I'm on the Greed and Fear Index, when I'm reading the news, everyone's going to say we're out of a bull market if we're in a bull market, right? And if we're in a bear market, as long as I'm reading that everyone thinks crypto's dead, well, probably they're wrong, right? And I can't remember how we got to the idea, but there's a few ways that I like to describe like the crypto market and really investing in general. And like, if I base something on probability, right, I can be wrong. So we're still inherently gambling, although it's not really gambling if you have a strategy, right? Because you have an edge.
Yeah.
So it's like with crypto, we're in the casino, right? So you're sitting there on the casino and you go, okay, what do I want to play? Do I want to play roulette or do I want to play blackjack? Or do I want to play poker? Poker's probably a better example. I just like blackjack. But instead of playing roulette, where I'm just going randomly red or black or a random number, I go and sit at the poker table. Maybe I've spent a couple of years figuring out how people's facial expressions change when they hold the right cards or the wrong cards. And I have an edge, right? So I use that edge and I'm still sitting in the casino. So I am still gambling, right? But I've created myself an edge. And once you understand that, and that's the game we're playing, then you just got to keep going, right? So I have my strategy, I have my thought process or belief system or whatever you want to call it. And then when everyone else is basically calling me an idiot, that's my cue to be like, wait, if everyone else is actually the idiot, maybe I'm right. And that's really it. So it's based on that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That I think it's really important to have some form of a strategy. That's why we always talk about you need to have an entry plan, but you also need to have an exit plan, you know, taking profits, things like that. Because if you don't, then you don't have an edge. And then that means you're left holding the bag most of the time. Like I've done it. I was left holding the bag 2 cycles ago. I lost everything. And then did a similar thing to you in the last cycle where I did take profits, not enough. But you learn each cycle, like what to do and, you know, how to take profits. And I feel like, we probably both definitely developed more of an edge now and understanding like what it takes to take profit off of the table, but also like reducing risk. So, you know, a couple cycles ago, it was pure altcoins, you know, especially last cycle. Last cycle was a lot of like altcoins, dabbling into NFTs. This cycle, you would have been realistically better off if you would have kept the majority of your portfolio into Bitcoin and then put, you know, a small percentage, 10 to 20% into like really good utility tokens, like for example, Sui or Hyperliquid when they first kind of came out. Yeah. And then you could obviously play the meme coin casino and you could have hit one if you were early enough. Yeah. I remember when Pepe came out and I bought it at like a $3 million market cap, but I sold it at like 6 million. So I was like, I don't know what this market's going to do. So how do you manage your portfolio? Like what's the split that you have? Are you majority in Bitcoin, altcoins? Like obviously you've talked about trading, but separate to that with the spot portfolio, like how do you manage that?
So one thing always I like to say, like it's hard for me to put an exact percentage, but my trading portfolio is, you know, off the top of my head, maybe 5%, maybe 10% on a day where because my strategy involves dollar cost averaging. So I sometimes have to move money to keep the trade going, but it's a very small percentage, right? And no one trade would be ever more than 1% of my crypto ever, right? So it's like, I'm very much of the long-term buy and hold spot mentality. However, with altcoins, I take profit, right? With Bitcoin, I have an amount of Bitcoin that my number, no one tells their number, you know, but I have my number and I'll hold that forever. And then anything above that, I take profits from. And I also try like the leverage bets in the stock market on Bitcoin. Yeah,
I was going to ask that actually. So from a diversification perspective, you just mentioned stocks there. Is that another way that you're kind of getting into crypto without getting into crypto?
Yeah, because I mean, like, there's something inherently like real about buying a stock when like buying crypto doesn't feel that same way. I think I like, you know, again, I feel like I'm more attached to stocks, so I tend to be able to hold them. I don't trade them as anywhere near like I do, and I try and have that again. Bring in the mentality and the emotion, right? If you have hedges against certain things, it's really easy to be unemotional when something like a $19 billion liquidation happens. And maybe you got blown up here, but gold, S&P 500, NASDAQ, all at all-time highs while this is happening. Gold especially, right? So like, yeah, this is happening, but if you're exposed on another side of things, maybe it's gold, maybe it's S&P, maybe it's property, like you tend to be, oh, well, you know, it's a percentage of my portfolio that I'm willing to risk over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll talk about the crypto side, and then I'll bring in the stock side. But the crypto, first of all, I'm 50% Bitcoin.
Okay.
So and that's pretty much flat. Obviously, when Bitcoin rallies, it becomes a bigger percentage, and because altcoins have lagged behind, it's
yeah.
But on days like the other day, like that is such an opportunity, right? And like the mentality that I have is, okay, it's 105. We're at the bottom of a catastrophic event, right? I would like that to a black swan or a flash crash, right? So Bitcoin's down, what was it, like 20% from the high or whatever exactly the number was?
Yeah, a bit less than that. About 15, I think.
Yeah. So the chances of it happening again now are very slim, right? So I'm going to try and build my Bitcoin stack at a moment like that, where the chances, the probability in the casino is very low that it's going to continue to drop here, because everyone thinks it's going to continue to drop and yada, yada, yada. So 50% Bitcoin. Then I have altcoins. Solana would be the second largest. No, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, Dogecoin, XRP. Those are the biggest ones. And then I have an exchange token, which is Weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I have a theory, and it was from, you know, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but like network is like the most amazing thing that anyone who's watching can do. Like building your network with friends, but also building your network, going to events, hearing people talk, watching podcasts like this, where you can hear like just a tiny idea that will stick with you, right? I might say something, you might say something, but I was at a crypto conference. I have no idea where it was, and I actually don't know who said it. But the point was, he mentioned that exchange tokens from a bear market into a bull market outperform Bitcoin as a whole, right? And the reasoning that he had, I can't remember exactly, but that idea stuck in my head. And I watched things like BNB, obviously has an ecosystem. It's a little bit different, but things like BGB, which is BitGet's token.
Yes, I was going to bring that up because I worked with BitGet
me too,
a couple of years ago. And I remember the team being like, you know, just buy some of the BitGet token, like you're part of the ecosystem, just buy some. And I just remember seeing that just rally. Like it went up 10x in like 6 months. I was like, oh my God. And then crypto.com as well, their Crow token with the Trump treasury and everything. So I agree with you. I think exchange tokens undervalued on a lot of...
And a rare thing in the crypto market is a company that actually makes money, right? So a company that actually makes money, I want to be invested into. So, you know, and you have all of these unknown tokens or unknown exchanges. I say unknown, obviously we know them, but like the mainstream doesn't know them. So like, you know, if you look into the way that KuCoins has a coin, MEXC has a coin, you know, brand new exchanges. I invested into one like 3 years ago that launched. And it's like, these are companies that actually have revenue that launch a token, right? And then they normally buy back that token. Weeks recently, I think it was like a 40% burn or something. So they're making money. They're incentivized to keep their token alive. They're incentivized to benefit the holders and that. So that's the sort of thing where I'm like, okay, well, that's a bet I'm willing to take.
So that's part of your strategy as well, investing in the cryptocurrency exchanges that also are probably one of the only projects in the space realistically that actually have revenue and are making money. And also they have to be transparent about their holdings as well because of the FTX crash. So you can actually see under the hood, what are their assets like? I remember with crypto.com when they first did it, I don't think it's like this anymore, but when they first announced it, they had like something like 20% of their holdings in Shiba Inu. I was like, what? What? You're joking. So yeah, super interesting. But circling back to that and talking about stocks. So what are the types of companies that you're looking at in terms of, you know, crypto stocks that you're investing in or is on your radar at the moment?
Yeah. So like I said, I have my amount of Bitcoin that I don't want to sell, right? So in my head, I'm like, what can I buy that's like Bitcoin adjacent that will go up with Bitcoin? Could be even a leverage play against Bitcoin without being leveraged. I'm holding something. It might have an underlying business that actually generates money, which is not something that happens in crypto very often, but it might actually have that. And that might actually benefit at a time that Bitcoin isn't, at all-time highs, for example, and gives me kind of that diversification. And on a day where we have a massive liquidation event, guess what? These things normally happen on the weekend. The stock isn't even barely affected, right? So those things are important. So I have 2 positions right now. One is much smaller than it ever was, and I'll tell you why. But CleanSpark, it's a Bitcoin miner.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been investing into that since the bear market. That's one of my best investments ever. Just long-term DCA up until a point, then pulling profits, reinvesting when it crashed. And then now recently, I'll tell you why, I've actually shaved that significantly recently. And then BMNR, so Tom Lee's Ethereum treasury company, that. My idea around that is, again, just like Bitcoin's done so well. My thesis on this bull market is institutional investors. And, people like Tom Lee being on CNBC essentially every day.
Yeah.
This is, institutions want that. Institutions want to sell. BlackRock, people always talk about, oh, BlackRock's dumping all this Bitcoin or BlackRock's buying all this Bitcoin. It's not BlackRock. Like, maybe Larry Fink has a cheeky little wallet that no one knows about. And he's like, oh, I'm buying a couple billion of Bitcoin. Sure, whatever. That's irrelevant. The on-chain data that we see is humans who are buying the ETF.
Yes.
So if humans panic, BlackRock is selling.
Yes.
If humans are excited, BlackRock is buying. So one of the best indicators, right? I'm not a big technical indicator guy, but an indicator on the market is BlackRock mass selling Bitcoin is actually normally a bottom signal because so many retail now buy the ETF. So people actually read that as a negative, but it's actually a positive, right? I'm not exposed to the Bitcoin or Ethereum ETFs directly because I'd just rather hold the underlying asset.
Yeah, me too.
But with the BMNR, it's like a leverage bet on Ethereum. If Ethereum does well, I actually think BMNR will do better, and it might not happen like at exactly the same point, right? Because that's what I've noticed with the Bitcoin stocks is, Bitcoin might go up, then we see the miners go up, Bitcoin goes down, and the miners sometimes continue to go up because something like they've reported earnings and people are excited about that. So what happened with CleanSpark, Bitcoin hit an all-time high, and then I watched CleanSpark and it did, like, from my average back in, which was about over the last 4 months, did 100% move. Wow. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to sell any Bitcoin, but I'm going to start selling. And every day for 3 days, I sold CleanSpark, 25% each sell. So I got around 75% out of my position. And that was like my way of taking profits at Bitcoin's all-time high without taking profits from Bitcoin.
Interesting.
So, and again, to bring that, I'll bring everything that I say with my strategies back to my personal emotion. So inherently humans are emotional. So when we see Bitcoin at all-time highs, we take a screenshot, we love it, we're showing our friends, we're so rich, or we're saying it in our head, right?
Yeah.
And everyone, like most people get wrecked by never taking any profits, right? But also we're in this weird juxtaposition right now where I love Bitcoin, but also I want a bit of money, because we are here for a bit of money. Like I'm someone who's here for money as well as changing the world and all of that stuff, but I want to set myself up. Yeah. So I can't really have both. So again, to fix that emotional kind of weird position I'm in, I get to sell CleanSpark instead of selling Bitcoin. And then it actually continued to rally. Now it's down from where I sold, but it did continue to rally. And then it's just that kind of skill of removing the what if. Oh, God, if I hadn't have sold it then, I could have sold it today. Or, and it's just like I've removed that from my psyche.
Then you'd never sell. If you have that mentality of like, oh, it could go up more, then you'll never sell and then you'll never.
And that's why everyone gets wrecked.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's the idea around the Bitcoin stocks, the same idea. The idea around BMNR hasn't come to fruition yet. So it's a strategy. Do you know what I mean? Like I've studied the way Bitcoin stocks react to Bitcoin. And if my thesis is correct, where Ethereum is now I don't think it's going to be better than Bitcoin or whatever, but people might want, institutions might flow into Ethereum, then I'll be able to play the same game, right? So instead of first of all taking Ethereum profits, I can first of all take BMNR profits. And they tend to move violently, these stocks.
Interesting. Yeah, so I have a thesis on this, which it's so early that I don't know if this is going to like play off. Yeah. But in my head, any stock intrinsically linked to stablecoins is going to do extremely well over the next 10 to 20 years, just on the basis that we're moving into a tokenized economy and all of that money is going to flow into stablecoins, whether that's USDT or USDC. And what I didn't realize is that USDT is backed 80% with cash and cash equivalents, of which the cash and cash equivalents is treasury bills, which is government debt, which is just insane. So my theory is that if I'm going to invest in stocks, it's going to be stablecoin based stocks. So like Circle IPO'd, did extremely well. So DCAing into them is kind of like almost a shadow money market fund in a sense that you're investing in. So over time, that is almost like your own bank. So I think over time, and also it will probably reduce the Federal Reserve's foothold on like the dollar. So that stock play for me, I think is going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's my way of diversifying into crypto, but from a stablecoin perspective, which I don't think a lot of retail investors look at stablecoins as an investment, because they're like, oh, well, it's just 1 to 1 to the dollar. Like, how can you make money from that? But they don't understand the mechanisms underneath that, which I think is really interesting. So that's kind of where I'm sat with my diversification.
Yeah. No, I agree. I also like to use stocks as complete diversification from crypto as well. So direct diversification in the sense of being able to take profits, but then also a lot of my like DCA methods that I've come up with have been, listening to people like Warren Buffett and the whole like Graham Stephan and all of those guys who talk about dollar cost averaging, right? And like finding the asset early enough, Bitcoin, and applying the same logic that they apply to the S&P 500 is what's done me so well, right? That's been the best thing that I've been able to do. So applying that logic, I'm also, again, trying to diversify to take control of my emotions. So when big things happen, I'm not fully all in, right? Bull market number 1, 100% crypto, 0. Bull market number 2, all in on crypto, but when I took profits, now diversification. So it's a hard one to say for people who are new, right, what they should be doing, right? Because for me now, I'm much more diversified than I was when I made that initial money from being all in. But you can only be all in if you're really into risk and you have some sort of a safety blanket and that sort of stuff. We can get into that if you want later. But now I really like having like a well-rounded portfolio. So yes, I'm very much in my mentality all in on crypto, all in on Bitcoin, but I want for my own sanity to have these these are hedges, right? Because we will go into another bear market, in my opinion, right? And when we do, my real estate isn't going to be in a bear market. My stocks might be in a bear market and my Bitcoin might be in a bear market, but my real estate won't. And then maybe in a few years, the real estate has a dip, but then everyone wants to buy, value companies. So my S&P 500 ETF might be rallying while my real estate goes down. And then because real estate is like a yield bearing asset, I then have that money to invest into different places. And it's like this cohesive ecosystem that almost builds by itself now. So with stocks, I also invest into the large ETFs. So S&P 500, NASDAQ, and All World.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
It's about, what would it say be now? Maybe 15% of my portfolio is those stocks. ETFs. Okay.
I like that. That's good. Yeah, that's really interesting. And then you talked about different hedges as well. Let's talk about gold for a second, because gold's been doing something very interesting. Obviously, it's been on a massive, massive high, reaching new all-time highs consistently over the last 12 months. But over the last 48 hours, it had one of the biggest dips that it's had since 2013, $1.6 trillion wiped off of the market cap, which, as you said in your video, is actually 80% of the total market cap of Bitcoin, wiped out in literally a day, which is insane. What are your thoughts on gold right now? I think it's super, super risky to buy gold where it was. Now that it's dipped, less risk. But there's a theory floating around on Twitter that, everyone's selling off gold to buy Bitcoin. And this is going to be the catalyst for the next leg up, and the reason why the bull market hasn't taken off is because everyone's been buying gold. Now they're selling that off and pulling it into risk on assets. Do you think that's the case, or do you think there's something else behind the current dip?
I mean, again, like, people have their theories, right? And people die on the hill of that theory being correct when actually he has no idea. Maybe that is happening. But also gold is so much bigger than Bitcoin that, like, it would be naive to think that the kinds of people that pushed up gold are the same people that are going to go all in on Bitcoin now. However, I do think that money will rotate. And I do think that what's happening right now with Bitcoin is again a massive learning lesson for anyone who's new to the market or anyone who's been in the market like me for ages. Is 3 or 4 days ago there was the news headlines in Hong Kong. People were lining up outside the gold bullion shops at all-time highs, right? So I discussed this in my video that I made this morning, but this right now is the moment in which you need to switch your mentality. So the day when everyone is lining up outside the store is not the day to be buying. It's not the day to be buying. Like, maybe gold goes up, right? And you miss that price. But the risk of buying at all-time highs, or not even all-time highs, but when everyone is buying, is actually way higher than after the crash, right?
Yeah.
And that was like a moment of realization for me as well. Like, again, not exactly sure where I heard it. Maybe it was one of my friends in the network, but the risk of buying when we're pumping seems like it's a good idea, right? Because everyone's doing it. You have that confirmation bias that everyone's doing it. But after the crash, for example, the $19 billion liquidation, for example, the FTX crash, for example, insert crash here, that day is actually your lowest risk day of buying, right? That's the lowest risk day. So what can we learn from gold is don't buy it when it's rallying, when everyone else is buying it. If you were going to buy it that day, or even if you did buy it that day, then maybe today, for example, is a great day for you to dollar cost average into that position. Now, whether or not the money is going to go into Bitcoin from that, I would say probably most likely a little bit will. But the more exciting thing for me is the stat about approximately 80% of Bitcoin's market cap, right? Is how much left.
Yeah.
And what that shows me is, wait, Bitcoin's at 110 or 5 or 120, or who gives a shit? Gold just lost essentially the whole market cap of Bitcoin in a single day.
Yeah.
So, like, that means that my thought about it going to $1 million might not be as crazy as I think, considering market cap isn't actually based solely on the amount of money that goes in, right? There's all the mechanics at play, but also just how much money is there in circulation, right?
Yeah.
And maybe 100K Bitcoin isn't actually that expensive if all of our ideas, us Bitcoin nutcases, if it is right, then 100K probably isn't that high. If gold can just lose that, just a little nip off there, and that's all of our market cap, right? And we're all excited at 100K. So, I mean, not to be too technical, but that's sort of what excites me, and that's like the learning thing from the whole gold thing that's happened.
No, that was when I listened to your video and you said that, I was like, no freaking way.
Yeah,
like,
right?
That just gives me perspective of how early we are to Bitcoin.
And like, we feel like we're in an echo chamber because like everyone around us is into Bitcoin and everyone, but actually we're not. Right? It's no one cares about Bitcoin right now. One of the, again, indicators that's not really a technical indicator that I use is Google Trends. So you can see how to buy Bitcoin or just Bitcoin or altcoins or whatever. And we're not far off bear market levels for any of the search terms.
Yeah.
Because nobody outside of our echo chamber cares. And we're at 100K. Like, it's $100,000 for a Bitcoin. In the bear market, I felt, I don't know what the feeling was, but making videos saying that my bull thesis is 100K, I felt like, I can't say that. Like, that's too bullish. Like, 100K is too bullish. And now people are bearish today, and we're 108 or 110. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
I remember, I think it was last November, I ended up going on to the Komodo Islands. I was on a boat for 2 days, had no Wi-Fi. And I think I'd left Bitcoin at like I think it's like 80,000 or something like that. And then within those 2 days, we had a massive surge, and a Bitcoin had gone from 80,000 to like $98,000 within those like 2 days. And I came back and my phone was like blowing up, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I remember what it was like when Bitcoin broke $100,000, and it was just felt like euphoric. Now we're at 108 and everyone's like super scared. And I'm like, guys, do you remember this like a year ago? Like literally a year ago. Yeah. This is crazy how the psychology can change in a very short period of time, which in reality, 1 year is not, it's not a long period of time.
No. And then what I want from people who watch my content and what I want to get across is like, we're used to 10% moves. Well, we should be used to 10% moves a year, the S&P 500 and the likes of that, right? So the way Bitcoin's moved in the last few years is incredible, right? And if you missed that, just look at the history of what's happened before. Because last bull market, 69K isn't actually that far off from where we are right now, right?
Yeah.
And so there were a cohort of people who bought at the very tops. And sadly, the majority of those people sold at some point in the dip, right? But the 1%, let's say, of the people who bought the day, right? They felt stupid for 2 years, but maybe they did just do the DCA method, right? And the bear market was the opportunity of a lifetime. And we will have that bear market again, whether or not right now is the top. Maybe 126 was the top. We don't know for sure, right? Or maybe 150, 180, 250, 350. Maybe that's the top, and then we go into the bear market. Whatever it is, right? Wherever you start, the opportunity is still there for Bitcoin, in my opinion, especially gold, market cap. You get the picture, right? We can go to $1 million with that idea.
Yeah.
And then we have people like Michael Saylor, who I've seen in person say, $39 million a coin. So it's like, is it too late at 100K? I'm not going to tell you it's too late or too early.
I think it's too early.
Yeah, exactly.
We're very early. I think $100,000 Bitcoin is so cheap. In the grand scheme of things, if you really think about where Bitcoin's going to go, I think Kathy Wood said that, her prediction is $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. I actually don't think it's that far off, to be completely honest. I don't know if it will get to $1 million by 2030. It's only 5 years away, but I think it could get pretty close. If you compare it to the market cap of gold, it's going to get there.
But in my head, there's literally no reason why it wouldn't, right?
Exactly.
But we'll have to see. But
talking about Bitcoin, let's switch gears, because I'm guessing a lot of your audience are not just heavy on Bitcoin, but they're heavy on the altcoins as well.
Yeah.
The classic question that you probably get asked in your comments a gazillion times a day, is there going to be an altcoin season? Are we going to get some form of dominance in altcoins? For me, I'm looking at Bitcoin being dominant for the next at least few weeks to maybe a month. I really need to see Bitcoin reach new all-time highs before dominance comes back into altcoins. But I do believe that we'll get some form of an altcoin season, but it's just not the same as, what we experienced in last cycle. So I'd love to get your perspective on, what you see as an altcoin season, and if you think we're going to get dominance back in altcoins in the next leg up.
So, I believe that the end of 24 was an alt season. I don't believe it's the only alt season. I do think there's going to be another one, because I base my thesis off the history, right? And where we sit right now is surprisingly similar to exactly what happened in the last bull run, and on a smaller scale, exactly what happened in 2017. So people are very easy to forget how the market moves, right? And as someone who makes videos every day and I look at the data every day, I suppose it's probably easier for me to be like, guys, obviously there's going to be a pullback around now. And then probably because everyone thinks there's going to be a pullback, it's going to pump first and then it's going to be a pullback. And then basically the market has to stay irrational longer than everyone can stay solvent in order for us to have a bull market, right? Because essentially the powers that be don't allow it. Right? And whether you chalk that up to pure manipulation by whoever it is, we can put our tinfoil hat on and speculate till the cows come home. Who's manipulating the market? Is it just complete nonsense, or is there people manipulating the market? Whatever it is, what I've noticed in the patterns is when everyone thinks it's not going to happen is when it happens, right? And I would say again, I always think we're getting close, and then we have a $19 billion, and it's the biggest liquidation event in history. But what we see right now where we sit is a market environment where most people, apart from the echo chamber that we sit in, think there's going to be no bull market, right? No alt season. Everything's essentially dead. Bitcoin's going to go down. I use my comments as like a barometer on the general market, and the general market, you know, apart from the people who've been watching me for a long time, think that it's over. There's no alts.
Wow.
Alts aren't going to happen. That's what I sense from the market. And then you have the fear and greed index, which tells us everyone's fearful. You got S&P 500 close to all-time highs, but the fear and greed index is also in fear. And so like we're in a very fearful market right now, which again, according to my strategy, if everyone is normally wrong, then yes, I believe we're going to have an alt season. And according to history, when you base the exact time frame of where we are right now, November, December, early January is exactly when that happens, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened last time. And I think it's tough for me because I assume a lot of people were around in 21, or they were not switched on, but paying attention in the way that I was, right? But everyone likes to just brush to the side that Bitcoin crashed 51%, right, in May. We had a candle that was 30% for Bitcoin. Yes, there was more liquidations this time round, but it was a worse crash then.
Yeah.
And we stayed sideways for 62 days. And if you study exactly the wick that we had, the second wick that we've had, and now the third wick that we literally are in now, it's exactly the same as the last one. In fact, I think it's the third wick down. It might be the fourth one. But the fourth time we retested the low, it actually went lower. So if you think about that, if you think about it from a manipulation standpoint or a market psychology standpoint, we all go all the way down. Everyone is like, okay, it's dead. We go up. Everyone gets excited. They go back in. They get annihilated. Again, okay, all right, one more time. I know what's going to happen now. We're going to bounce like we did last time. They all get in. Okay, they're annihilated again. Down again. Maybe it's that one. Maybe it's the second one. But enough times to convince the people who still have a shred of hope that it's going to happen. And that when we get there, the last shred of hope, the last stop loss, the last liquidation, the last event, and that's when we did a new all-time high for Bitcoin, right? And that was like a 62-day period from the first wick to the last wick, not the new high. That was significantly later, but that's how long it took, right? And we're in like day 5 right now.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone's kind of questioned whether or not it's
People
over.
forget though, because I remember during the tariff crash, that was tough because that was like a whole market reset. That was, you know, not just crypto, but the stock market. Like no one knew what was going on. The VIX went up to 60, which was insane. And, you know, us and my entire group have gone through that. And we were telling them, don't panic sell, buy the dip, buy the dip. We ended up going to a Bitcoin new all-time high around 6 months later, which was a good play. This liquidation, the same people are still afraid. And I'm like, guys, do you not remember we've just been through this exact scenario, even worse 6 months ago, and you guys came out on top? Like, you need to really think about, you know, what you guys did on a market psychology perspective to buy the dip during this period of time. This is easy compared to that, but people forget. Yeah,
I mean, and then eventually the people who make it over that hill, right? And that's kind of where I sit now with the emotion. So like, luckily, the first tariff crash, I was waiting to apply my strategy that I applied to Bitcoin and to the large caps to the stock market. Because I'm like, I'm just not going to buy the S&P 500 at all-time highs. I don't care. Like, I want it. I want to diversify, but I'm not going to do it because that's just not my strategy. That if I do that, even if it works out, because it's not my strategy, it will make me emotional, right? So I have to stick to my strategy. That's how I stay unemotional. So when the market crash happened, we did a 10% move and I was like, brilliant. Trump, please keep saying bad stuff. Keep up the tariffs, more. And every day we were getting like 3 to 5, sometimes 10% dips on the S&P 500, on the entire American economy, let's call it. Brilliant. If there's ever been a free trade, it's that, right? So I was dumping as much money as I could into the S&P 500, literally everything I had. Because obviously it's hard to go crypto into fiat, right? So it was not as much as I would have wanted to, but every day I'm buying every single day. And then the same with Bitcoin. I did 3 big buys on the way down, I think 82 to 74. And sounds like, oh, I'm saying I timed the bottom. I started at 82.
Yeah.
I thought that was the bottom. No, wrong. 79. Oh, wrong. 74. I don't care though.
Yeah.
Give me another, hit me with a black swan event after black swan event after black swan event, because then I just get Bitcoin for cheaper.
Yeah.
And then keep it down there. Keep it down there for as long as you want, because I use the money I can afford to lose that I make monthly. So anyone who makes a salary monthly, whether it's a tiny amount or a big amount, it's that money I'm talking about. I'm not talking about money that I can't afford to lose, that I need to live. I'm talking about money I can afford to lose. So Bitcoin and the S&P 500 and like maybe like a property crash in like a really old market that we're like, London, like for some reason everyone panics for a year and property prices in London go down 70%. I'm going to buy as much as I humanly can, right?
Yeah.
But like that's obviously probably not going to happen. But in moments like that, it's like retraining your mind to see that event as an opportunity. So like the tariffs, the people in your group, they make it over the hill. And then when you're over the hill, you're like, okay, well, brilliant. We get another opportunity. We get another opportunity to buy. And in fact, you touched on the VIX, right? If you look at the VIX, every time the VIX has spiked, an indicator.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because people are panicking.
Agreed.
And when people are panicking, they're doing the wrong thing, right? So if you just do the opposite of what that wrong thing is, because that might also be selling, right? Because people in a bull market panic buy gold, queuing outside the shop, right? They're panic buying. So if you do the opposite of what the panic is, you tend to come out on top.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. 100% agree with you. And you just touched on something there that's really interesting. You said that it's hard to get from crypto into fiat to buy stocks. And one of the things that we sort of touched on before was the tokenization of the entire economy. And what BlackRock's trying to push is that he wants everything tokenized on chain. So do you see yourself going from crypto straight into tokenized stocks as opposed to taking it out in fiat and going through a broker? Because that'd be really interesting to see if you're willing to do that and like what the safety is behind that. Because a lot of people say, oh no, I'm not going to do that because I'd rather go through my broker because it's safer. But in my mind, if I think it's more convenient or it's easier and more efficient, then why wouldn't you want to buy tokenized stocks? Yeah.
Well, it depends on how custody works, right? So I believe that I'm almost 100% certain, unless something changes, that essentially everything will be tokenized. I like that thought. People laugh at NFTs, but an NFT style thing, maybe it's an inscription on Bitcoin, maybe it's an NFT on Ethereum, maybe it's something else, right, that fits that same sort of bracket. But why can't I buy a car like in England? Like I still have to fill out a DVLA thing, like nonsense. Obviously that's going to be an NFT, right? But I think the rails, the rails of retail coming in and actually using crypto only happens when no one knows they're using crypto.
Yeah.
So yes, I think everything's going to be tokenized, but I don't think it's going to be like, not so much a choice, but it's not like you won't know it's happening. So like the stock market will be tokenized, right? Instead of Vanguard, interactive brokers, whatever your broker, Robinhood, Trading 212 if you're in England, whatever, right? Instead of them having the custody or them holding the stock for you, however it goes in whatever brokerage, it will just be a case of, it will look exactly the same. Robinhood will just have tokenized stocks and you'll just be doing the same process. So it won't feel any different. It'll feel exactly the same.
Do you think crypto exchanges are going to adopt that? Like, can you imagine like Binance having, tokenized stocks, and then you can just, in your Binance account, just go straight from, let's sell off some Bitcoin and transfer and swap that straight into tokenized S&P 500?
Yeah, I can almost guarantee that's what's going to happen. The only thing that I don't think will happen is sort of the trust factor, because people don't trust Binance the way they trust Vanguard.
True.
Or interactive brokers, the big exchanges, right? Or the big brokerages. It's different. But first, we need to have a 24/7 stock market, which will be the way, it will be a normal stock market, not tokenized, I think, right? We'll have that, because grow up.
Yeah.
Like, please grow up. Like, it's the weekend and I can't like do what I want. Like, grow up. That's all I can, like, what are we doing? Like, well, come on, it's 2025. I can't trade a stock. I can't buy or sell the S&P 500 at 9.
I know. What's Wall Street going to do?
Yeah, don't piss me off. But anyway, they're going to do it, right? That's going to happen because they're going to have to, right? And then, because like Robinhood, for example, they're testing out the tokenized method. The problem is there's arbitrage right now because it's not big enough. But once the market is big enough, the arbitrage of, because when the market closes, it'll be a tokenized stock that trades. And then when the market opens, it might be a different price, right?
Yes.
So there'll be profit to make on the arbitrage or losses to make. So they need to figure, so they need to figure that out. But they figure that out by mass. The more people that do it, the less opportunity there is. Market makers essentially come in and fill the gap, right?
Yeah.
But I think that first we have real stocks trading all the time. Then we have companies like Robinhood trying to push the boundaries. So we go into tokenized versions of that. It will probably start with it's a 1-to-1. So like you buy maybe the futures price, for example, of that stock, and you're trading that. And then you eventually buy a token that has an NFT or has a locked up version of that and gives you the rights through Robinhood. And then eventually it will just become the same thing. And then when it becomes the same thing, that's when retail will just do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it going.
Yeah. That's the same way that I kind of see CBDCs as well, central bank digital currencies. It's like 100 countries that are developing their own central bank digital currency. It's crypto, it's blockchain, it's going to get introduced, it's literally going to be like a flick of a button, no one's going to know, and they're suddenly going to be using CBDCs. And, depending on which government or jurisdiction, they're either going to make it very easy to onboard into crypto or very difficult. But it's a similar thing where it's like people are going to start to use blockchain technology without even knowing that they're using it. And that's the best thing. And I think that's what Web3 has been talking about for the last 5 years. It's like, how do we integrate blockchain technology without having to explain what blockchain technology is? Kind of the same with the gaming industry with like in-game assets. Everyone's used to in-game assets, they understand it. Now there's a lot of games that are just putting like NFT technology backing that, but no one's telling them that. It just is within the game. Yeah,
the thing that's stopping gaming, the thing that's stopping the tokenized assets is just the sense of it being crypto, and you have to be crypto savvy. Like, in order to buy the NFT of some skin in a game, you have to have a wallet. And that wallet has to have, because it asks you, it pops up and it says, do you want to write down your seed phrase? And like everyone's like, nah, I don't even know what that is, piss off. And then they lose it. And then that's it. That's all their money got, right? So it can't be like that. We can't have that. But once that, because it's getting there, with the likes of Phantom, like that's why one of the biggest things, Solana had such a big meme season, is because Phantom made it so easy for people to just, I think it was like MoonPay or maybe Phantom had their own one, but credit card, Solana, buy, right? Yeah. But even then, it's still a little bit of a barrier, right? Yeah. So I think there will just be a time where it will just be, you'll feel like it's the same. Maybe that's with CBDCs, maybe that's with another rail we haven't even thought of yet, but everything will just be, it'll just be an app. That we have.
Give it another couple of years. Walmart's just announced that they're accepting cryptocurrency now to, 200 million people that shop at Walmart.
Why wouldn't they? Yeah. Like, why wouldn't everyone do it? I mean, like, because it's traceable. It is traceable. So like, it's what they want. They want to be able to trace us. They don't want cash because they don't want you to be able to do anything. So like, sadly, I mean, it's sort of like everything's kind of like, God, we've gone down the wrong way. Like, everyone's like, crypto, it's decentralized. We get to have our own money. We get sovereignty. We're our own bank. Oh, BlackRock. I don't know if we wanted, I didn't want it to be that. Oh God, now my whole money, I have no cash. They can track everything I'm doing. This is way less decentralized than I ever wanted. And now I've got points that remove me and I can't do what I want. Okay, brilliant, I fucked it.
Yeah.
So that's...
it was always going to go that way though. Like, once you get the big players in, it's like everyone wants the big players in because it legitimizes it. Yeah. But when you get legitimacy, you get more centralization and more control. So there's no winning essentially. But if you're early, you can take advantage of an early market where you can hold these assets and make generational wealth over the next 50 years. I mean, if you just hold Bitcoin or buy a bit of Bitcoin now, hold it for 50 years, you're gonna make money. You're gonna make money.
Yeah.
Cool. So one final question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to anyone watching this video who want to get started in crypto, what would that be?
Well, the easiest thing and the most that I've seen the most success in is Bitcoin isn't too expensive. So what I've learned over time from my studies in how the most successful investors have made their money, it's extremely simple. So yes, you can trade, you can find out how to trade meme coins, you can find out how to trade with leverage, all of that, but put that all to the side if you're at the very start and just learn what the word or the whatever it is DCA stands for, dollar cost averaging, of course, but understand what that actually means and apply that to an asset that you actually have researched and believe in, right? So I did that with Bitcoin, and naive me managed to pick the right thing. But now, after years of continually researching Bitcoin, even at this price, like I said, at 105, I dollar cost averaged. And I think that buy will make me money. It's made me a little bit of money now. So it's the simplest thing, but you find something that you actually believe in, wholeheartedly research it, believe in it, and then dollar cost average into it, and then everything else can come.
Solid advice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Conor, for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Love the alpha and the wisdom.
Conor Kenny on YouTube. Go check it out.
Yeah, go follow him. Links for all of his socials will be down below. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.